Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Hey YouTube. Hey YouTube. Hey YouTube. Hey YouTube. Hey YouTube. Hey YouTube. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So as you can see by the title, this video marks number 1,000 for my YouTube channel here. 1,000 videos that I've uploaded throughout the last handful of years. Really in this video I just want to use it as an opportunity to say thank you. A heartfelt thank you to all of you who have continued to support the channel through the years. And it's crazy to say that out loud, that a lot of you really have followed the channel for years, watched my craziness unfold of my 4 million vehicles that I've owned. You've essentially kind of watched my family grow, because I've done a number of peanut and buggy features and family features along the way. So it is kind of wild to say that out loud. A lot of you guys have been continuously supporting the channel for years, and for that I am very grateful. So this video really is just that. That's the main takeaway. Thank you for the continued support of this YouTube channel here. I know there's a lot of other YouTubers out there who do a phenomenal job, a much better job than me, highlighting Toyotas and just geeking out about vehicles and their ownership. But it really means a lot, that a lot of you continue to follow and support the channel and continue to engage in such a positive way. So from the bottom of my heart, really thank you guys. For those of you interested in sticking around for this video here in particular, I figured it'd be a good opportunity to really just highlight the history and the origins of this channel, how it got to where it was today. I'll kind of do my best to do a quick recap, the best I can anyway, of what got us to where we are today on this channel. I'll talk through at the end, some of the key takeaways that I've learned through this YouTube journey and experience that I've had. And I'll kind of cap it off with, why do I still do this? Why do I still do this? And what are the goals for the channel that I have moving forward? And really solicit your feedback. What is it that you're enjoying about this channel? What is it that you'd like to see more of, less of? What could I do better, truly? And really just, what new things would you like to see moving forward? So that is the main crux of this video here. So to start off, let me just kind of do a deep dive into the history of the channel, and like I said, I'll do my best to kind of recap it the best I can, as fast as I can. So it started about 12 years ago-ish. I created this channel strictly to document my ownership of street bikes, of all things. So motorcycles is what originated Untamed Motors here. It didn't even have that name, Untamed Motors, back then, way back then. For those of you who've been around the channel for a while, you may know the original name of this channel. I'll let you throw that in the comments section. So it started with my ownership of motorcycles and just geeking out about street bikes in general. I'm talking, Suzuki GSXRs, Honda CBRs, Ducatis, all my ownership of those vehicles, Yamaha R6, R1s, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. You think I'm crazy about cars today? You should have seen me throughout my late high school and college years with street bikes. It's about the same or worse is what it is. So as I went to college out in Washington State, I was very fortunate to have earned a full-ride Air Force ROTC scholarship while I was out there. And because of that, I bring that up on purpose, because of that I was able to afford a pretty cool car throughout college. Between a few jobs that I had done before then and swapping out a few motorcycles, I was able to buy a 2012 Subaru WRX STI in World Rally Blue. That car right there was kind of the beginning of my crazy OCD and really just my passion for vehicles in general. I had a couple before that, but that one there was the one that I really put a lot of work into, kind of poured my heart and soul into. That was the origins of my channel. So if you look way back when at the very cringy, terrible quality videos, I haven't got much better, let's be honest, but if you look back at my original videos, you'll see a lot of that WRX STI there, the World Rally Blue one. So I kind of started the channel and mainly me documenting. If you notice though, I didn't even talk. I didn't even talk in those videos back then. Maybe I was a little scared to, perhaps, at the time, but I just didn't. I just walked around the vehicles and showed them. So pretty boring overall, but it was mainly for me to look back at. There was no followership on the channel. I didn't have any views on any of my videos. It was just for me, if I'm being honest with you. I eventually ended up commissioning as a second lieutenant in the Air Force, and that kind of started my journey around the world, right? I ended up PCSing 5 times in 9 years, so that's why you kind of saw me at different locations and different houses all the time. A lot of you thought I was in a witness protection program, which is pretty hilarious, but no, it was just PCSing, and I kept my military affiliation pretty separate. On purpose, right? So I was a public affairs officer for the Air Force, and I never wanted anybody to think that my personal views, not that I share that many of them on my channel, were that of the DoD, of the Air Force, right? So I always kept them separate on purpose. So that's why you never really heard me talk so much about that. But now I have separated. Well, I'm in the Air National Guard, so now I'm a part-timer. part-timer, only 1 weekend a month kind of guy with a different career that I love here in Wyoming. We'll get to that toward the end. So I commissioned, went to North Dakota. That was my first assignment. While there, I mainly just did a few videos highlighting my ownership of that WRX STI. But before PCSing to Italy, I ended up making a pretty bold move, pretty bold purchase of a 2014 Nissan GTR track pack. That was a huge purchase at the time. I think I spent, gosh, what was it? It was probably just over 80,000. I bought it used, very low miles on it. I bought it, had it shipped, transported to Baltimore to get on a ship to go to Italy. So the first time that I actually, well, gosh, I test drove it. I flew out there and test drove it. But then the first time I actually enjoyed the vehicle, really, outside of my test drive, was in Italy. So that sounds amazing when you say it out loud. But one thing they don't tell you about Italy, as an American, if you get stationed and you live in Italy, insurance rates are through the roof. And especially I was a younger cat, of course, at the time. A brand new lieutenant, well, a couple of years in at that point. So I was very young with a sports car, 540 horsepower in Italy. It cost an arm and a leg. And I'm gonna quote what I recall anyway. It was over $83 or $8,200 to insure that one vehicle for a year. $8,200 it cost. So I actually had it in storage mode, thankfully, through my insurance most of the time, but that meant I didn't get to enjoy it truly that much in Italy. So that was kind of a bummer. In retrospect, I probably wouldn't have done that. It was kind of a young and dumb purchase at the time, but I ended up making out okay, right? So I ended up trading that in for an F80 M3. I actually drove it all the way up from Italy up to Germany and traded it in for an F80 M3 Velocity Edition. Look that up. There's very few of them. Traded that in. It was an amazing car, and it's honestly one of my biggest regrets, selling that so quickly without enjoying that vehicle. So not only did I not enjoy my GTR that much in Italy, I didn't enjoy that F80 M3, which I loved. I loved it. It was fashion gray. Check it out. It was incredible. But I only put really a few hundred miles on it. So I went and bought that and had that shipped stateside as I was PCSing out of Italy. So again, a very short-lived experience with the M3. While in Italy, though, I did end up buying my first Toyota. I bought a 2017 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro in super white, and that started my craze for Toyota, my passion for Toyota, right? And honestly, I was going to get a cement gray. That was going to be, there was only 1 or 2 cement gray Tacoma TRD Pros being allocated through the military auto sales program, US spec vehicles, of course, and they were being allocated to the Italian dealership, right? And I remember being so nervous about that idea. I'm like, I don't want a gray truck. I don't want a gray. I want a white. The white looks so good. It's a stormtrooper look. And I remember being like so bummed out that I could only get a cement gray one. But fortunately, just a couple of weeks before it was going to arrive, my sales rep from the military auto sales called me and said, hey, there actually is a super white one that we could swap it out for in the Germany port. Would you like to do that instead? I recall you saying you wanted white. So I ended up swapping it and getting the one I wanted originally. But in retrospect, I'm like, man, cement gray is so much cooler, right? But again, our perspectives change, and I didn't realize how special cement gray Tacoma TRD Pros would have been later on. Special, right? So that started my craze for Toyota. We then moved back to Wyoming, and then by that time, I actually had earned 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 followers on the channel here, and I was able to finally monetize my YouTube channel. You just check a couple buttons, add in your bank account information, and then bada bing, you are now having advertisements run on your videos, right? So big whoop-de-doo. And I can still remember it like it was yesterday. Mrs. Untamed and I, we got an $80 payment. $80 payment from YouTube ads. And I remember being like out, I remember freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, we just made $80 off of YouTube. I'm like, oh, Daddy's buying dinner tonight. We're going to Olive Garden, right? So I was pretty stoked at the time. And that was the end of 2019 when that happened. So, I'd been making videos for several years, just again, no intent of making YouTube a thing by any means, mainly for my own personal sake, documenting my vehicles. That's all it was. But then I got that $80 first paycheck back in end of 2019, and that started the monetization piece of it anyway. So I continued doing what I was doing, maybe uploading a little bit more frequently at that point, just barely. And I started doing the peanut features, buggy features here and there. I started incorporating my family into it, not on purpose, not forcing them into it, but I'm just always around my family, right? So I got 4 kids now. At the time I had 2 out there in Wyoming. So I'm always around them. If I'm going somewhere on the weekends, they're with me. We're all together always. So that's why they've always kind of been incorporated. And I love that selfishly, because when I look back at my videos, it really is to me an archive. It's just of my, A, of my vehicle ownership, and B, just of my family, right? Seeing them grow is pretty cool through the years. And I never thought that would really be a thing of YouTube for me. Did puppy dog features back then. I purchased my first 4Runner TRD Pro while I was down at Squadron Officer School, of all places, down in Alabama. I bought my first 2019 4Runner TRD Pro, and that was my first 4Runner. And that 4Runner, I loved it. I absolutely, that's what really has drove the 4Runner to become, I believe, honestly, my favorite Toyota. I love that 4-liter V6. I know some people hate it. I love it. I love the 5-speed linear power delivery of that 5-speed automatic transmission. I love it. I love how bulletproof it feels. Love the reliability, blah, 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 blah. There's so much that I really appreciate of that 4Runner, and that started it all, right? So I ended up trading that 4Runner in for an army green 4Runner, and that's kind of started my craze a little bit right here, because I've been in Italy for a few years, and I couldn't swap out vehicles so much. There's a little bit more regulation on that. If you're a military member stationed over there, you're not a local national, so you can't just swap out vehicles whenever you want. So you're a lot more limitations to do that over there. So maybe, in a sense, I just built up so much, I guess, desire to experience different vehicles. But here I was, trading the same vehicle for a year newer 2020 4Runner TRD Pro in Army Green. That color just was mesmerizing to both Mrs. Untamed and I at the time. She actually kind of gave me the nudge to do that, if you can believe that. So we both loved that one. We loved the Army Green. Ended up getting a Ford Raptor. That Ford Raptor would later be swapped out, perhaps for the most controversial decision I made on the channel, a Raptor for a 2019 Ford Raptor for a 2020 Tundra TRD Pro in Army Green. So now we had matching Army Green vehicles. And at this point is what I would honestly call, the formal launching of my channel. When I made that controversial decision to swap out that Raptor for the Tundra TRD Pro, I thought there was going to be a lot more negative backlash. I thought people were going to be like, what, you traded the most off-road capable Baja truck for a big, heavy, old, archaic Tundra? I thought for sure people were going to give me flack for that. So I was even reluctant to upload a video to YouTube. But when I did, I was pleasantly surprised by a ton of support of just, fellow Toyota enthusiasts who supported that decision totally, right? And people who had been burned by Ford in the past kind of chiming in. So swapped that out for the Tundra TRD Pro. That was my first video that quote unquote went viral. So overnight it did go up 250,000 views. And up until that point, I'd only maybe gotten 1,000 views on videos at that point, maybe. And again, it even wasn't me pushing for the view count at that point. It's just me trying to be consistent with uploading, really. But that video there is what kind of launched the channel. I probably earned 3,000, 4,000 subs, maybe 3,000 subs off that video. And I kind of launched Untamed Motors from the start. So from there, we ended up, actually, excuse me, I was going to say, before moving to Washington, right before moving to Washington, I ended up trading that Tundra for a Land Cruiser Heritage Edition, a 2020 Land Cruiser Heritage Edition. And at that point, there really wasn't a whole lot of, and there still isn't. There's, it's kind of a niche following, or a niche group, cult following rather, for the Land Cruiser, the 200 series. But they exist, and mainly in other countries, really. But up until that point, there wasn't too many videos on. So I started making videos on my Land Cruiser there. Again, kind of controversial decision. I didn't get a whole lot of love for that move. But people, I think, kind of started growing to the idea of the Land Cruiser and it really being the most overbuilt, iconic Toyota that you can get, right? So people started kind of growing to that idea of it. And so I put a lot of content out on that Heritage Edition. Still to this day, the Heritage Edition has a special place in my heart, and I'll likely have another one in my lifetime, so we'll see. So then we moved to Washington State, right? So I went out to Washington State for 1 year as a special assignment out there, but what was happening in 2020? That little thing called COVID-19 was popping off, right? And because of that, I was working in Seattle for the 1 year, and Seattle, of all places, was very much a city that kind of shut down, right? So I was out there, and there was remote work for the organization that I was helping work for that year. They shut down and they were doing remote work entirely. This was a huge blessing in disguise. So when I was out there, I really had time to lean into the channel. Obviously, I was home all day. I obviously do my work perform my duties and do them well. But I had a lot more time just to kind of like walk outside, shoot a video real quick on a break, and go back inside, right, and hop on the computer. So it was a lot of that. So it was a huge blessing in disguise, not only for the channel, doing a ton of content, a ton of videos for the channel. You know, in Seattle, there's a ton of Toyota dealerships all around the area that you can go to, a ton of dealerships in general, so a lot of content opportunity. But personally speaking, it was a great opportunity for me to finish my PhD. So I'd been working on my PhD for several years since 2017, before that, for several years up until this point, and it allowed me to actually finish that toward the end of our stint there, which I'm super grateful for. So obviously during Washington, I had a few Tacomas, few 4Runners, few Tundras. The neighbors that I lived, or that were next to us out there, thought I was a total maniac. Freaking different, as if they don't now, but a different, you know, we're more closely, it was a neighborhood out near Seattle, as you'd imagine, pretty tight. So having a different 4Runner Tacoma in the yard, in the front every day was like raising some eyebrows, for sure. Then I left, right? So had those while we were there. Then we got stationed in Maryland. In Maryland, that's when we were back to work. We're back in the office, right? No more remote work for us anyway. You know, back to putting the uniform on every single day. Because when I was in Seattle, it was a non-uniform thing, right? That assignment. But when we were stationed in Maryland in particular, making that commute into DC every single day kind of sucked the life out of me a little bit, right? I loved the Air Force. I loved my experience in the Air Force. Had a wonderful time, honestly. But going in DC every day made us really miss Wyoming, miss the quiet, low speed of Wyoming, and that ultimately drove to my decision to, they call it Pals Chase, separate into the Guard, right? So leave active duty and go to your place of preference and join the Guard part-time, and then pursue a different career, a civilian career. And that's what it is. That's the whole intent. Not only did we PCS 5 times in the 9 years that I was active duty, that just kind of added a little bit of a strain. That, you know, we're constantly moving around. One of them was self-inflicted, that we moved for good reason, that assignment in Seattle. But it's just a lot of movement, and we decided, hey, you know, 9 years, we can still continue to, you know, toward retirement in the Guard, but we can actually set roots down somewhere that we really knew that we liked, and that's Wyoming for us. A great place to raise a family, and it seemed like every time we PCS, Mrs. Untamed was having another baby. So I needed to put a halt to that real quick. Every time we moved, she was having a baby, that rascal. So we decided to make one more move, one final move out here, and of course, one more baby came, ironically enough. So now we got 4 kids. But anyway, so we came back to Wyoming, now part-time, blah, 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 right? My key takeaways, that's kind of a quick summarization of the origins of the channel, how we got to where we are. But I want to kind of highlight the key takeaways along the way for YouTube in particular. Really, for this channel, I love the community that we've built over the years. I love seeing the positivity, a ton of engagement, right? I mean, we get more engagement, more viewership than a lot of channels that have 100,000 subscribers, right? I mean, and that I really appreciate. To me, it's never been about the subscriber count, but rather, you know, the type of positive engagement and community that we can build together, and we have, and I'm really, really appreciative and grateful for that. YouTube really has, like I mentioned, become that archive for me. So selfishly, I do like looking back at my old videos, and I know my kiddos are already starting to like Peanut. She loves looking back at her old videos where she's responding to the GT350R, me revving the exhaust. Small stuff like that really means a lot to me and my family. And with that, I mean, it really just has become a part of who I am, right? And one thing I love kind of jokingly telling people is, I tell people, hey, I'm an Air Force officer, right? And a public affairs officer in the Air Force, blah, blah, blah. I mentioned that, and, you know, I do YouTube on the side as a hobby, and it's like, whoa, really? Tell me more about YouTube. Like, people totally, like, disregard the thing that I worked 4 years in college for, ROTC, to get to. I totally disregard that. I'm like, hey, tell me more about YouTube. I always found that kind of fascinating. Something that anybody can do, right? Pick up a camera and start doing it and geeking out. So the last point out here I'll make about my key takeaways is YouTube was never about making money for me. And it still is not. And I can honestly tell you guys that. You know, I've gone to school for 12 years collectively, college after high school, and, you know, earned bachelor's, master's, PhD. Like, those are the things that I've built my life around, and I will continue to, you know, focus my career toward. And that's my focus for generating money. This YouTube thing, anything I make from this is totally extra. And I'm very grateful for that. Being able to make money off of a passion project is spectacular. So I think that is so cool, and I encourage anybody to do it if you have something that you're really passionate about. But had I gone into creating this YouTube channel and making it a money generating machine, I would have failed. I would have absolutely failed. So that's just kind of one piece of advice I want to throw to you guys. I know it's easier said than done, but you got to start a channel about a passion that you do have and just share it with people. You know, if you can upload videos and not even look at the view count, not even look at your subscriber count, and then eventually get to the point where you're making money, that's great. And that's really how it worked out for us here. It took several years and it took 1,000 videos to get to where it has become a thing monetarily, right? So why do I still do it? So before I talk about the exact numbers of how much it brings in for me now, I'll just kind of highlight real quickly why I still do it. I enjoy seeing the impact that this channel still has. Not a day goes by where one of you will post a positive comment, really appreciative of the content that I'm providing you, or I'll get a message on Instagram just saying thank you for this, or hey, because of you I bought this, or because of you I did this. That's the kind of stuff that really keeps me going, and I really appreciate that kind of feedback, so thank you. I love being able to help share the knowledge that I've gained through my ownership experiences, my 8,000 ownership experiences, although short. I love sharing that with you guys, and sharing my crazy with you. And that's a piece of the equation. I love helping people get good deals on vehicles and not get blindsided or have the wool pulled over your eyes by a dealership. I love geeking out about my passion and building that sense of community with like-minded enthusiasts at the end of the day. And that's kind of the biggest piece of it. I take pride in doing this, and I continue to take pride in it. And now my kids kind of do too, in a weird way, right? I mean, my son asked for an Untamed Motors hat for Christmas, so we got him a little Untamed Motors hat. So I love seeing that even my children are watching what I do, and they too want to be a part of it, and maybe even someday they'll have their own YouTube channel after college. But just kidding. So Peanut already has one, for the record. So what are the goals I have for the channel moving forward? Real quickly, I do hope to build this channel out to 100,000 plus subscribers. So some of you may be saying, wait a minute, didn't you say you don't care about subscribers? I don't, and I haven't. But I have seen the value lately of other channels having 50,000 to 100,000 plus subscribers, getting certain invites, getting certain opportunities, going out to unveiling events, going to automotive showing events, right? Whatever it is. I just want to be able to get those opportunities so I can continue to geek out and continue to share that with you guys and provide my perspective on things. So for that reason alone, truly, I hope to get to 100,000 subscribers by 2026. That's kind of my goal. By 26, have 100,000 subs. I want to conduct more live streams. That's one thing I want to do. I want to attend more auto shows, like I mentioned, do more giveaways moving forward. Keep a hold of vehicles longer than a couple weeks or a couple months, right? I want to provide more long-term ownership reviews for you guys. So that's a piece of my goals here. I want to branch out more. I want to show more of my family, more of my day-to-day life, because as I mentioned, I'm always with them. So naturally, they're just kind of there in my shots anyway. So I want to just kind of show a little bit more behind the curtain if you guys care to see that. And finally, I do want to provide higher quality content. I want to provide that higher quality content, better editing for you guys. I think I owe it to you at this point. But to be fair, I think it's also important to note that I've always done very minimal editing on purpose. I've always wanted to do a one take. I got pretty good at one take videos. This is one here. Hopefully it's going okay. One take videos and then uploading just for the sake of not going into my office for several hours editing a video. What is that doing? That's taking time away from my family. And I've always kind of tried to avoid doing that for that exact reason. I was already taking plenty of time away from my family for my schoolwork. I didn't need to add on and compound it with this. All right, so let's talk perhaps what maybe some of you, most of you perhaps, are interested in. So with 27,000-ish subscribers at this point, 1,000 videos later, YouTube has become a monetary thing for me. When I say monetary thing, an actual, a larger piece of income for us anyway. I'll just get into it. So last month, I think for this month in particular, we're slated to earn about $4,100 or $4,200 this month, and it's strictly ad revenue by me checking a box and uploading videos. So about just over $4,000, we'll say, for January is what we're on track to earn. Last month it was $3,400, and before that I think we're at 22 or then 28 before that. So I kind of range anywhere between as low as 2,000 at this point and up to, the 4,200 range is what I kind of average. I do have a couple affiliates that I've worked with, like Go Rhino. You guys have seen me post Go Rhino running boards and all that before. They have offered a 5% kickback. So whenever you guys use my code, I would get a 5% kickback. So that was always anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month that I would get from them. They did just recently cut that. So Go Rhino, I shouldn't say cut that, they sold to a different company. So another company has bought Go Rhino, so I no longer, unfortunately, get that affiliate. And that was my largest one by a long shot. I no longer am with Pedal Commander. I was with them for a little bit, barely earned anything through that, maybe a few $100 a month. But holistically, up until this point, I can always count on YouTube bringing in right around $5,000, right? Throughout the last year and a half anyway. So it's kind of continues to grow and continues to snowball, which I appreciate about YouTube. And guys, it's not lost on me how much money this is. And I always kind of have to remind myself of that youngster who freaked out when I got $80 back in the day. My first $80 payout from YouTube, I was freaking out. So I'm super, super grateful to have gotten to this point. I really am. And on behalf of Mrs. Untamed too, I mean, we really do appreciate all of your support for this channel, guys. So that's it, really. $5,000 a month, roughly, on average, is what we kind of end up bringing in. And honestly, being able to make, like I said, being able to make any kind of money from a passion side hobby like this is huge. So at this point, I will wrap up the video, but I want to kind of pose those initial questions to you once more. You know, what is it that you would like to see moving forward? You know, what kind of changes would you like to see in a channel? What would you like to see more of, less of? Anything new in particular? What is it that you like about the channel? I would appreciate hearing that from you at this point, because it lets me know what I should continue to do to provide that content that you guys like to see, and what I need to maybe adjust and change fire on. And I promise, I got thick skin at this point. You gotta have thick skin to be on YouTube. You know, even if it's adverse feedback, you know, negative feedback, I need to hear that too. You know, what do I need to do better? And I'd appreciate hearing that. So again, thank you all so much for the continued support of Untamed Motors. I know this turned into way too long of a video, but I wanted to make this a little bit more special of a video, or my 1,000th, if I can speak, video on YouTube. So thanks again, guys. Till next time.